let's just have a little look at my favourite mixes from the So Natural range. Let's start with what I describe as the base mixes. Now that's very simply lake or river. Now I base most of my natural fishing around these two ground baits. Starting with river, quite literally as it says, I use this on rivers. It's a sticky mix, it's good for binding baits. If you're adding lots of particles like casters, dead maggots, pinkies, worms into a ground bait, this is a great base for your mix because it gives you that binding power. Now, if I'm predominantly targeting roach with an odd skimmer, I'll look to mix black river with black roach in equal parts. Black roach has got lots of coriander, it's quite an active mix, great for targeting roach on the majority of natural venues. If I was going somewhere where there was a mixture of roach and skimmers, I'd look to add a bag of the sweet skimmer to this. The sweet skimmer is a much sweeter mix, it's a more biscuity mix, quite bready, so the three of those mixed together are a great mix for pole fishing, running line fishing. You could even use them on a feeder if it was a really big river and it was pulling really hard and you felt that you needed to get the bait to the bottom. But those mixed together are brilliant if you're looking to target a really mixed net of fish. If I was going somewhere on a river and targeting purely bigger fish, skimmers and bream, I'd perhaps look to use the black river and sweet skimmer and not the black roach if I didn't want to attract any smaller fish like dace and roach into the peg. Now, if I'm fishing a lake, again the same principle applies, but at this time the river is dropped and we bring a bag of lake in as the binding mix. It's not got that same binding capacity of the river that's needed to get the bait down to the bottom in a heavy flow. So in this instance, the same principle applies. If I'm targeting roach, it's lake and black roach. If there's more skimmers about, it would be lake and sweet skimmer. That's a real favourite mix of mine on venues where there's lots of hand-sized skimmers. They really seem to like that sweet, bready mix. But again, if it was a mixed net of fish, lake, one bag of black roach and one bag of sweet skimmer, all mixed together is a beautiful mix for introducing a bit of bait and catching a nice mixed net of fish. Now, a personal favourite of mine, particularly on venues like the River Wye in the winter, when you're looking to really increase your feed content in the mix, is crushed hemp. Now, there's two ways of using crushed hemp. One, if you're looking to really introduce the bait to the bottom and increase the feed content of the ground bait. Say on the Wye in the winter, I'm using 2 bags of black river, 2 bags of black roach. I'll then use 1 bag of crushed hemp, and the way I prepare this is to actually empty the bag of crushed hemp on its own on the morning that I'm fishing into a bowl and cover it with boiling water. And what that does is it takes all the activity out of the crushed hemp. The crushed hemp soaks it up and it becomes a lovely milky porridge that I actually mix through the dry ground bait as part of the mixing process. Another way of using crushed hemp, and this is particularly effective in the summer when the roach are in a slightly funny mood and they're perhaps off the bottom a little bit and hovering over the ground bait, is to actually introduce it into the mix dry. And what that does, when the balls of ground bait hit the bottom, it starts to pop up and the roach start looking for it over the top of the ground bait. It's really effective if you're perhaps loose feeding over the top of your ground bait and catching these fish on a strung rig as they're coming in and around the feed, but they're not really feeding hard as they do in the later stages of the year when they're really eating the bait that's in the ground bait. So it's a great product, the crushed hemp, to add into your mixes, both on still waters and rivers. It can really make a difference to your catch rate. So next time you head into a natural venue and you're thinking about the fish you're targeting, make sure you have a look at the So Natural range of ground baits, and I'm sure one of the mixes we've discussed there will help you put more fish in the net.